morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your personality program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. Well, we got a politician or two down in Alabama has a perspective or two, I should imagine. Stand by. We're going to go right down to Montgomery, Alabama, bring in Rod Moore. Okay. As our guests will remember, and both of the listeners out there, we always try to start kudo with Viewpoint with a kudo or two. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, Billy. Slow down. And it's kind of appropriate, Judy K., that my kudo that I dreamed up over the weekend would come today because.
And you still remember it on Wednesday?
Yes, yeah, because of our guest.
Boy, you're perking.
Well, we went out to the Oasis for one of their meals over the last weekend. And courtesy of my junior partner here, Viewpoint, and we appreciated that, Judith K. The point I mentioned is a lot of people did a whole lot of work out there and served. We were there meatloaf night. It was just wonderful. Really did a fine job. And I think apropos of our guests here today, it'd just be appropriate to extend thanks to all those folks out there at Oasis who really, you were out there early in the morning, and people like Billy Post, I think he sleeps out there.
Yeah, he does. He has a room off the back.
So, thanks to all those folks out there. It was nicely done, which segs right into our introduction.
Yes, and I'd just like to PS your kudo because those fellas and ladies who work in the kitchen are so faithful. Oh my gracious!
My gracious, yes.
And they're so pleasant, and they'll give people like me who are novices little hints about how I probably should think about doing this and that. And our guest today is one of my heroes, really, Dom Dalpoas.
Don't stroke him too hard. We've done that on the air before. We just know he's a great guy.
Oh my, he's a wonderful man, and he's been with the Oasis now for half his life. And he started downtown, and I'm sure lots of people.
At the fire, it seemed like it was forever.
Yeah, that was. My daughter's going through one of those times in her life. We did it my 50th birthday. Our house burned, and it's nasty, isn't it, Dom?
Yes, it is.
It's nasty, and there you were, all ensconced and happy. And this morning we're going to have a little bit of reminiscing.
Go down memory lane
about the good, the bad, and the indifferent. The bad, of course, would certainly be the fire.
However, Judith K., if I may interject, I don't want to interrupt you, but seriously, that turned out to be, was strangely enough, a fortuitous fire insofar as the Oasis is concerned.
Oh my!
The Oasis done nothing but blossom and grow since it moved out there on Route 10 West. And it would have been about the same year in, year out had we stayed down there in the old First National Bank building.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, I think, Dominic, that was even though it was a
blessing in disguise.
Real trouble for you for a while, and many. It turned out to be a real fortuitous fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what really is memorable about that event was that happened on a Friday, the actual lightning strike and fire, which was June 21st of 2013. On June 20th, we had a board meeting that night, and I just mentioned to the executive board, and at that time it was Wally Rystack and Shirley Jordan and Carol Schauer, and I'm forgetting the vice president's name right now. And I told them that I was planning to resign effective in April of 2014. That's when the annual year all came around. So I told them, and I said, well, we'll let more out as we kind of get our plans together for the transition and so on and so forth. So that was in 2014. I was at home that Friday and got a call from our alarm system that said that the alarm was going off. And oftentimes when it would rain heavy down at that building, there was a leak right in the roof, right above the fire system, and the water would trickle down, and it would short the alarm, and it would go off. So we were actually having a birthday party at my home. So I told everybody at the birthday party, I said, well, I'm going to go to the Oasis, put out the fire, and then come back. I said, only take a little bit. And so I went off to there. As I approached, naturally, the place was quadrant off, and I did go in the back door of the building and met a firefighter with all of his gear on and stuff, and he wanted to know where the electrical panels were and all that sort of stuff, so I directed him to that location. Everyone had cleared out of the building, and I was standing on the corner across from the Oasis, and Wally Reisdeck at that time, we had kind of partnered up there, and we were watching the firefighters do their thing. When the fire shot through the roof, we both knew that things were going to change drastically from that point forward. Yeah. I told Wally, I said, well, we got a couple of choices. We can either lock the door and everybody go home and say we had a good time, or we can try to make things a little bit better. I said, what do you want to do? And Wally said, well, I think we need to make things a little bit better. And that's the theme that we took on, and we put together a system for board members to work together in to come to the conclusions that we came to and move to the location that we moved to. And yes, we needed parking desperately for our programs and activities. This 132 parking space that we have lends itself to all of that. It's on one level so that anyone with any kind of ambulation difficulties can get in and out of the building. So all of these criteria we had listed down to explore to see what buildings were available to us. It wasn't without its problems and issues. The insurance, just as you spoke about, Judy, in the insurance business, which I've got sons that work for it, but oftentimes it's a mysterious thing. Well, you got to read your policy, I was told. Well, we were buying this much insurance is what I kept saying. We were told this much, we were buying this much, and we didn't want to settle for anything less than that much. I didn't want a penny more, but I didn't want a penny less either.
Right.
And so through all of that, the insurance, which is Cincinnati Insurance, handled us very well, very well. And they treated us, couldn't have treated us any better. Like I said, though, it was through its ups and downs, that part of it. The second part of it was there were lots of folks, or some folks, that felt like the center should stay in a downtown arena, where it was more the center hub of the city and that. So there were those issues that we had to work through, too. And then there were all the issues of the remodel. So those were all brought forward, but honestly, the board at that time couldn't have worked together any better than it did. They're all of those people have to be commended. Now we're 4 years past that date, and it took a couple years to get the cash flow system going again. It does take a while to get all those things working again, and it took a while for that to happen. But yes, it was a very tragic event, but there was something very good that came out of that event.
Well, there sure was, especially the parking situation.
Yeah, the parking, the space within the building itself is, we got lots of program space we didn't have. The old building had 12,000 square feet of space, but most of that space was unusable. It was a second floor or a basement.
Yeah.
Useless, really.
Yeah.
For your clientele.
For the folks that printed us, yes, it was.
Daily, there's something going on out there every day.
Yes, there is. There's something going there every day.
Pretty obviously fills a need for a lot of people. I don't know, but it appears to me, I've got a lot of things going on, so frankly, I don't have time to go with the Oasis.
That is great. That's great.
That day's going to end, and maybe tomorrow. And so that's a place for a lot of people to go to. It fills a big void in their day, apparently. I see people going out there. I'm not a card player, but that's a great thing.
Well, and the fellowshipping. They form beautiful friendships.
Groups and fellowships. In fact, the federal government does surveys. I'm privy to lots of the results of those surveys. The one thing they found out as people age and they get older in the senior population, fellowship, or the lack thereof, is very detrimental to their health and their life, basically. If you don't stay involved some way, shape, form in something, you can dwindle very quickly. And lots of people find that to be the case. And I invite anyone that's listening that finds themselves alone for supper, alone for lunch, alone for whatever they're doing, to come out and just become involved, just to start to meet people and start to see people and start to take an interest in what's happening and what could happen. And it really will. It puts a whole new mental perspective on your life. It really does.
You know, your programs are so varied. For instance, now it's Christmas and pretty soon it'll be tax season.
Yes.
And you even have a program to help people with their taxes. Who thinks up these programs that are so beneficial to people? And how in the world did you ever come to be the main man who's responsible for them?
Well, when you're in the position that I'm in now and soon not to be, and Nancy Joe will do a wonderful job, you just inherit these things. I was privy to lots of information from the federal and from the state on our demographics and what people needed and didn't need. One of those things was a tax service. It's a AARP VITA tax service. The IRS sponsors that service. We just completed training on the 4th and 5th of December, and we just had training with our tax preparers just this past Monday. And we're going to have another one next Monday. And what we did on our first year, we did 60 returns, and that was a huge number. And it wasn't so much that you had to have a super amount of knowledge, because I don't have a knowledge of all the tax laws and the this and that. But if you know what form it's reported on, you can find the form in the software and duplicate what's on that form, and the software does all the magical stuff with it in terms of turning it into the tax law as it has to be. So that's how that all began. Last year we did over 600 returns. So
it's 600 returns for folks?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's blossomed and moved and all of that. We started off with 2 counselors, and now we have 9. When I say counselors, the people that do tax prepare. Yeah.
So these are volunteers that show up?
These are all volunteers. They're part of the AARP VITA IRS system, and they do it. And it's a worthwhile project. I've always said, and I don't know if I should say these things or not, but I've always said that's bad enough to pay taxes. You have to pay so many taxes. It's worse when you have to pay to have them done. So, we've always adopted that model, and we try to. And there are some returns that are not in our scope, where it's very clearly defined what's in our scope and what's not. Those folks we have to refer out to the paid providers, because we can't be usurping. We don't want to usurp anybody's livelihood, for sure.
Well, that's not your intent.
No, it's
obviously. But it's nice for those folks who have simple tax returns that are, even though they're simple, they're a little bit beyond their ability. And it's nice to know that they can go to somebody and have it done and get that out of the way and move on.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sure that people who are senior citizens, that be us, Bill.
Why did you look at me?
I'm looking at both of us, the both ones.
I talk to human relations about
well, just to show the variation in programs, you have the most wonderful bus trips for such a reasonable fee. And I know one of my friends has been on several of them, and she just raves about every single one of them.
Well, that's great, because the bus service, just like you mentioned, we get a certain amount from our provider and we don't really mark up those trips. We mark up the trips a little bit in order to compensate for time and all that sort of stuff, but we don't really mark those trips up. And oftentimes, we have very economical trips. We're going to New Orleans,
yes,
March 11th through the 17th, and then the 2 trips, actually, March 18th through, I think it's the 24th. And both, we have some vacancies on that first bus, so if some folks are interested in going, just give the Oasis a call at 732-6132, and they can give them all the information on that trip. And then we're going to the Creation Museum in July. It's down in Tennessee or just below Cincinnati, Ohio, some way or shape, form. But it's Noah's Ark and the Creation Museum. There were lots of...
Now I understand that's very interesting.
That's some of our members. Any member and for that matter, any senior that comes into the center and says, I would like to go to such and such, we try to make those things happen. If we can get enough people to go and we can get a driver to drive, then we're off to the races, so to speak, and go.
And they have such a good time. And again, they make new friends.
Absolutely. When you go to a certain place, where like a tea room or anything, and you share that experience with a common goal of people who all wanted to go there and so on, it just makes it a very, very nice experience.
There's one real good reason to go to New Orleans, and that's that World War II museum down there. That's
Yes.
a magnificent facility down there, and you need to spend more than a half a day there to do it right. I mean, you really have to immerse yourself in the time to do it.
It is. We're going to the trip is going to go see that. The problem when you go on any of these trips is, because I went on the New York City trip, and we went to the 9/11 museum.
Yes, I would.
It was fantastic. It was a life-altering experience. I remember living through that time. Not too long ago,
yes.
2001. But when you see the museum, how well it's put together, and the reverence, because there are still remains in that building site, and the respectfulness of the people going through the thing, and it's just amazing.
And there are many quarters today where there's a total lack of respect. That alone, seeing people be respectful, would be worth the trip.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of respect,
Yes.
we're going to respect our sponsors when Mr. Ash is ready, because they be important folks to us. Go right ahead, Mr. Ash. And having paid our sponsors a good of obeisance to which they're entitled, we're right back live in the studios. The program, of course, is Viewpoint. We appear each Wednesday morning at 8:15 to 9. We work very hard, Judith K. Busby and myself, trying to come up with different guests and little different perspectives. We've got a perspective of going out this morning. Dalpoas has served us very faithfully and very well to the Oasis for a number of years, longer years than he'd probably like to relate. And now he's fading into the sunset. He and Roy Rogers and Trigger and what's her name?
Dale Evans.
What's your biggest
Dale
up
Evans.
and your biggest down in the 17 years you've served the Oasis so capably?
The biggest up by far has been seeing people from different backgrounds, different personalities, come together and work in a united fashion towards a common goal. You can't measure those things. You honestly don't see those things, but that's been the biggest up. The largest down is I've got one hand of the largest downs. I had 5 individuals for one reason or another that we suffered a tragic personality conflict with, and anytime you deal with those kinds of things, especially in a public or a non-profit setting, it becomes a downer no matter how those things turn out, because it's sort of a stain. But those were only 5, and when you think about 17 years times 12 months times times how many 100 and 200 months or whatever, and you got 5 incidents, it's not that bad. So
You can walk into that Oasis at, I swear, any hour, and it's crowded, and the people are playing cards, and they're laughing, and they're having the wee of a time. I went in there one day, and there were mostly ladies, and Bob Derber. And he's a hoot. Everybody knows he's just a hoot. He was having the best time, boy.
Well, that's Bob's personality. He makes himself.
I tried to get Bob voted out. I tried to get the women to vote him out, but they wouldn't do it.
Oh, dear. Well, he can't help himself. You just love him.
Go ahead and call Bob.
Oh, heck. Yeah, you kind of feel like parenting him somehow. Yeah. Although I dare say Mrs. Verderber did a beautiful job.
She and Polly
sure
V.
did.
Polly V. was in my high school graduating class.
Is that right?
A dear friend of mine, and a very excellent citizen, and a whale of a craftsman. He was a real craftsman.
Yes,
in his
he
job.
was.
He did
yes,
well.
He was.
He earned every nickel he ever made. It was a hard job. Anyway, you have your food service that you offer. at the Oasis. That's on a regular basis. You serve. Tell us the scheduling on that, Mr. Dalpoas.
We have a couple, 3 people now that have sanitation license or cooking license there, and they oversee the cooking that's done at the center. We have a potluck event, which will actually be tomorrow there at the center. So if you want to come to a Christmas potluck, it starts at 11:30 and it's over with by 2 o'clock, no later. And if you want to come to that and then leave, it's kind of a fun event, so come to that. That's every month on the second Thursday of the month.
I bet that's some good food.
It is. That same group that you had mentioned earlier, Bill, that was responsible for your meatloaf, is our cooking crew, and Rick Hofel heads that up, and Gary Leisman, who's on our board, and Dennis Worth and his wife, and there are numerous, Donnie Wolpert, Shirley Wolpert. There are lots of folks there that help with that particular event and do a great job. Pat and Jan, I forgot the name.
It'll come back.
It'll come back to me sooner or later. But
We'll be off the air, but that's okay.
Yeah, it won't come this time here. But anyway, those folks all do a wonderful job for us, and they make the event fun for everyone. They have good food there, and it's really, if you don't bring any food at all, you just give a $4 donation, and it's strictly a donation. If you don't have the money, you can come eat as well. And if you bring food, you don't make any donation to help out with the potluck sort of thing. So that happens. We have food on Tuesdays, Tuesday evenings. That's in conjunction with our bingo games that we have every Tuesday at 6:30. That helps us fund the center and keep the center going. And if I can retrospect, the other concern for being out there was that we were not going to be able to afford the utilities. The building downtown had utilities that were more expensive than the utilities we're experiencing here. And
I bet.
The building and grounds put a lot of insulation into that building, and it's paid off greatly. So we don't have near the utility bills. So we have those things happen on Tuesdays. And right now we have other special luncheons throughout the month. As the need, we're having a volunteer recognition on December 18th. For folks, so if anyone who's volunteered, anyone who's made cookies, we just had cookies by the pound, and we had wonderful people volunteer and made cookies, so anybody like that is can come and eat and just...
You know, the nice spill-off on that cookie thing is I have a neighbor who bakes cookies, and sometimes she bakes more than she wants to take out there, and they find their way in my back door. Isn't that nice?
Well, that's exceptionally nice. That is exceptionally nice. I too have neighbors that are cookie makers, and believe it or not, my wife, who I don't mention enough, but anything that I was able to do is because that she really was the person at the home front. She was responsible for all 5 of our sons. She honestly, although I hate to admit it, she did a wonderful job, and she taught me as well how to be frugal, how to make a dime go into a nickel, into a penny, and so on and so forth. So
she taught 6 boys, didn't she?
She did. She did. She taught all of us, and she did a wonderful job for us. So, but that's our food. Our food program is essentially that.
And you know. Your price for the meatloaf dinner, for instance, the other night, $8.
Yeah.
My golly, you had homemade dessert, you had meatloaf, you had cheesy potatoes, you had Illinois green
outstanding.
beans, you had a salad, a lettuce salad, and it was all delicious.
It was, and believe it or not, the state taxes us for that because it's
Say that.
Yes. Oh,
Say that again, please.
You really?
Get taxed?
Yeah, we have to pay a food tax. You're allowed 2 food fundraisers a year. Otherwise, if you do more than 2, you have to pay tax on all of them. So
That's a relatively new thing, isn't it?
Somebody found
relatively new to us. I don't know if we were violating the law all the time or not, but it's relatively new to us. I didn't know it for sure, and it's so when you take it times 8%, you got 64 cents out of that $8 that goes to the state.
The sovereign
So we
state
got-
of Illinois.
yeah.
Well,
So we
between here and Broadwell, that got away in a hurry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think that's wrong. I'm sure they'd be vitally interested in how I feel about that down in Springfield.
Well, I've had several calls from them, and they wanted to know your feelings specifically, Judy. Now that I know them, I will tell them.
You can report that.
That's just the craziest.
Well, go figure. They'll figure some way.
Mike Madigan wants his pound of flesh out of everything.
And gets it every day. Let's don't get into that because
It'll make us nasty.
It's a family program, and I don't want to get into language for which we will lose our jobs. So we won't do that.
Now, do you communicate with other such organizations, and they say, we tried a bus trip to New Orleans, for instance, and you say, hey, that sounds like that would be fun for our people.
Yeah, we're members of the Association of Senior Centers of Illinois. And there's about 104 senior centers. All the vast majority are all connected. They have a taxing base as a governing body, and those are either with the city, or they're governed by the county, or they're governed by a park district, or governed by something that's a taxing body. So funds and how they run their operation is stark different from our senior center. We're one of those senior centers that is autonomous, has its own 21-member board, and we have to schedule our programs so that what programs we do offer don't cost us money, that whatever we do charge offsets that cost for us. And the community of Logan County has been very, very good to that senior center over the course of the last 17 years. The people have been very, very generous to that center in terms of donations and other things.
You say there are 40-some senior citizen centers in the state. 104?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that gives us one per county.
Plus two.
And plus two leftovers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, I'm sure that they have more in Chicago because they have more people.
Yeah, I'm sure they do too.
But now, are they mostly based in a county?
Not necessarily. Like I said, the vast majority of them are all connected with some taxing body, with a city. The city operates them. The city sends in the maintenance people to clean it up. The city does all this stuff. But the city council governs the senior center, and the senior director works for the city council. Or the county, or the park district, or any of these other taxing bodies that you can think of. There were 4 not too long ago that were autonomous as we are. That is, we're a 21-member board elected throughout the county governs the operation of that senior center. And we're not beholden to a taxing body. Now, there's certain positives to all of that, and there's certain negatives to all of that. So
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
It would be that way in anything.
Yeah.
By having county members that are beholden to their constituents throughout the county, it puts it on a level playing field. You have a very nice current. Alexis is still the president, and
Alexis is still president.
Does a nice job.
She's a good president.
She's a wonderful
lady.
person.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
Very sincere. Obviously, pretty hardworking too.
Very, very hardworking. I can remember as we started way back when I spoke with Marge Fuller. Marge Fuller was the first president of the board.
Was she?
And I spoke with her, and Marge was. It was almost a tearful, emotional request. She says, and I didn't even realize what all was happening. I just know it now. She says, I'm putting my dream into your hands, is how she phrased it. She says, I didn't think we were going to make 3 months, let alone 3, 4, 5, whatever the years were when I got there. So I didn't think we would ever do that. She says, but take good care of that for me. That's what Marge. That's what Marge Fuller said.
And Marge wasn't afraid to roll up her sleeves and work.
No.
And she worked for so many of the worthy programs here in the county.
I didn't know her. I never met her.
Very interesting.
You didn't?
No.
That's very interesting.
You'd have liked her a bunch.
I liked her a bunch on the phone call.
One of the advantages that we offer our citizens here, the veterans, is a fellow comes from Decatur, Veterans Commission. Notwithstanding the fact that thanks to Joe Shaler, we now have an excellent Veteran Service office up in daily up at the courthouse, but still have some of the veterans take advantage of that, and that has worked out very well, hasn't it?
It's worked out exceptionally well. With all the veteran gentlemen used to be at our center every Tuesday, and then they had state budget woes and all of that, and they had cutbacks, and now he's there every other Tuesday. He's on the first and the third Tuesday. Yesterday was the second Tuesday, so he'll be there next Tuesday. And he's very knowledgeable. Rich is. He handles all kinds of veterans. Joe's office refers people out there as well. So there's
Is that right?
They're working. Yep, they're working in conjunction with one another, and it's an excellent service for the seniors. We are, thanks to Joe and thanks to others, we are certainly better covered for veterans than we were previously, for sure.
You have a lot of old veterans, and one of these days I'll get there, who have things that come out of their past, and suddenly they have a problem, and so that's a place to go, and people help them for whatever they're... You know, one of the big problems with veterans is they had that terrible fire many years ago down in St. Louis, and all the records burned.
Yes, one of our friends, they said they didn't have any records. It was before computers, you know.
Yes.
And the paper burned, and that was that.
Yeah, they were lost.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Now, I haven't checked. I knew about that story, but I had not checked recently as to how that was all pieced back together, or if it was pieced back together. So
Well, that's where my Silver Star Award went. I say that facetiously. I don't take that seriously out there, both of you listeners.
Yeah.
Very facetiously in that regard. But there are many, that's just, now, I'm just trying to think offhand. Of course, you offer for senior citizens who can't see. The lady comes in and will clip their nails for them.
Yes.
And, listen, that's a big help.
Or reach.
That's yeah.
That's another problem.
Or reach or see, yes. Emma does that for us. She's been doing that
I vote
for a long time.
And it's an added service, which is a neat service.
It's an added service. There are lots of things as you look back over 17 years and look back over time. It really didn't seem like much. We just added this, and then we would add that, and then this was fine. And in fact, I told Nancy in one of those sessions, I said, we just kind of made things up as we went along. If we saw some need, we invented a purpose to have that program. And if we saw this, we did that, and so on and so forth. And
that particular service is kind of off the mainstream, but you come up with these things that are invaluable to people. I guess when I was younger, I didn't think about some of these things becoming difficult as the years went by.
Yeah, they do. And especially for diabetics who have trouble with their feet anyway. It's a godsend that we...
Now, you can have a rotating library of sorts there. How does that work? People can take books and bring them back?
People can, we have books there that you can purchase for a nominal fee, a quarter or 50 cents or something like that. And then we have books that you can just come in. There was a World War II book that I was particularly interested in, and it left the shelf early and often, and it's making its rounds through Logan County right now because they don't even bring it back. Well, I gave it to my neighbor, and they're going to give it to so-and-so type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
I should bring you that book that Brayton Danner wrote, A Bad Day at San Lo, local boy, who still we didn't know anything about PTSD there at that time. It was just a war problem. In the first war, they called it shell shock. And I remember a fellow named John T. Small walked around town, his head kind of shell shock. But anyway, Brayton Danner conferred with Father Jim Cravens, and kind of pouring his heart out to him many years after World War II was over. And Jim Cravens convinced him to just sit down and write all this stuff. Not to publish a book, but just to kind of it from the brain to the paper. And he did, and so anyway, Jim convinced him to publish this book. It was a bad day at San Go. I have a copy. I'll bring it out and put it in your library. That's a World War II
That'd be
book,
very nice.
because it's local.
Yep.
One man's history. A quick aside from that, as San Go reminds me, we dropped a bunch of bombs short there, right 2 or 3 days after June 6th, D-Day, and we killed several of our own troops, friendly fire as they called it, including a 3-star general by the name of Wesley J. McNair. And I saw his gravesite there at D-Day at this Normandy Cemetery, I should say. And I came back and told my good friend Harry Comstock was doggone. I saw Wesley McNair's grave, and he says, I picked him up. He was
my.
He had a terrible job in the Army, a Graves Registration Unit.
Oh, for goodness sake.
That had to be a terrible assignment.
Oh,
and here is my best friend here, had picked up this 3-star general at the time he was killed.
Oh, dear.
What a coincidence that is. Yeah. But anyway, people like myself get going on that time, and we don't know when to shut up, so we move in back. Let's go back out to the west side on the former Rusty's Tavern, which is now a great spot for the senior citizens. You have a lot of people.
But they don't serve liquor.
No, we don't.
No, I wanted to talk to you about that. The potluck dinners, I wonder if you could bring your own Bloody Mary.
Not as of yet. That's always something that can be
That's
changed.
not going to happen. But you have, physically, it's laid out nicely for a multitude of uses.
Yes, it is. Greg Doolin, I don't know if you know Patrick Doolin downtown.
Yes,
Greg's his brother. Greg was the architect for the building, and as I was saying, we had a board that went through and decided that we needed this, and that, and this and that, and so on and so forth. And Greg put together the format that the building was shaped into now for us, and we tried to anticipate growth, we tried to anticipate all those things, but you never, when you're anticipating stuff, you never really realize what you're going to need and how much you're going to need. There's different areas that could be changed and moved here, there, whatever, and do some better, make better use of the building. But we got to.
Surely your attendance must have grown exponentially, and I remember the controversy over, oh my golly, if we move out there at the edge of town, that'll be the end of it. It was the same story for the health department. But people can get to Wally World, so I think they can get to the Oasis.
Yeah, they get to. Cracker Barrel and those kinds of places that are just down the street from us.
Yeah.
But that was part of the overall resistance, was that we're going to move out there, and if you went out there, you'd drop off into the abyss.
Yeah.
There was no coming back from out there.
A little asset that you added here that won't get much use in the next 3 months, but next spring you have a little walking track around there.
We do. We have a walking track, and just to tell you, I just got an email from one of the senior centers in Alton, Illinois, and they're on a campaign now to raise $2 million to add a fitness center onto their senior service area. So, and they had these diagrams where they were doing the machines. Now we have small little machines that you have to make go. They're not plugged in the wall, so you don't have to worry about falling off or going too fast or whatever. But that's we have that kind of a room. It's small, but it does give you
gets regular use, doesn't it?
Pardon me?
It gets regular use.
It does get regular use, and I advocate for that a lot, because that's one of the needs identified in the group of the 65 to 70-year-olds. That senior niche of people is very health and fitness conscious, or most of them are. And so, yes, we were blessed to have a track that was the Elks and lots of others donated monies towards that and made that all possible for us. So we have a fitness walking track, we have a fitness room, and that's the way we're trying to keep pace with the next generation of seniors as to what they need, want, or desire.
It just absolutely amazes me how foresighted the architect, the board, you, Shirley, I mean, you're not Shirley, you're Dom, but all of
Don't call you sure.
all of the people who have done this planning. There's such a plan to it. Nothing is just scatterbrained.
No, it was planned. In fact, I remember Wally and I, after the fire, I said to Wally, I said, we need to set up a system, because I said, if we set up a good system, no matter what people you plug into the system, they will work within the system and come up with good decisions for us. Mm-hmm. So we worked very, very hard on setting up the system by which we were going to study and make use of that space that we had available to us.
So many people owe you so much. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate
You've done
that.
a
Thank you.
yeoman's job.
Well,
Yeah, we've started to see, we've said this before on the air, we were starting to see it go, but it's a double-edged sword. Lord knows he's earned it. Nancy Joe is going to come aboard here very quickly, or is aboard officially now, and you're just there to kind of help and introduce and kind of mentor as you move along. She gets broken into the system, so to speak. Let's just talk about her. She's got quite a background and is comes exceptionally well recommended to us.
That is wonderful. She came on board December 4th, and that's the first time that I met her, and that's the first time that I knew her, really. And as I told her, there isn't anybody in Logan County that wants you to succeed any more than I do. There
Yes.
are those that want it just as bad, but I can tell you for a fact there's not anybody that wants any more than I do. So it's not the kind of situation where the mother-in-law gives the daughter-in-law the recipe and she forgets the one little spice that makes it all work. That's not the intent here. The intent is to give her just as much information as I possibly can. But when you talk about 17 years and you're talking about 14 days or 10 days or whatever it is, it's a lot to learn. But she can make that computer hum, I can tell you that. I can't. She can't.
Well, bless your heart and bless her heart. She's a nice lady, and I'm sure that she'll make you proud, Dom.
I'm hoping so, because I intend to give her a call just like Marge Fuller gave me a call.
There you go. There you go.
Well, appreciate your time, Dom. I know that Judy and I realize that you're not on top of your game today. You got a little bug bothering you a little bit. And
I sure do.
we'll ship you out of here and tell you to go home instead of go with the Oasis and mentor. We're going to close with a remark that doesn't have one thing to do with the subject matter, not germane at all, because somehow I didn't come up with it last night. But anyway, I found something that is pretty apropos in today's politics. Has been since, I guess, from time immemorial as far as politicians are concerned. Mark Twain said, well, I can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. So much for that. Thank you very much, Dominic Dalpoas.
Thank you, guys.
What?